It's my time, it's my season, and I've got a good reason to open my mouth. Gonna let it out, open your mind, grab your friend. Hope you listen to the end. The vibe is good and learning meets on She Who Speaks.
Hi, thank you for coming back to be with us for another episode of She Who Speaks. I am Renee, lover of a good laugh and all things behavioral. With me are the beautiful queens. I have Marilyn. She's unassuming with a good listening air and or unstoppable voice with an angelic voice, Loveman. We have a special guest with us today, Miss Kasha. She's the CEO of Front Runner Leadership Consulting, and we are so delighted to have you join our conversation. Kasha, before we talk about anything else, tell us, what is Front Runner Leadership Consulting? What do you do?
Sure. And thank you, Queens, for having me here today. I'm so glad to be with you all. So thank you for this privilege and honor. Frontrunner Leadership Consulting is a professional development firm. And so all things personal and professional development, we go into businesses and train you to be the best at what you do from a leadership standpoint. So our specialty areas are executive coaching, leadership development at every level of the organization, conflict resolution, team building, stress management, and business communication. So we're excited to be able to offer that to the world and train people across all specialties.
Awesome. That's amazing. That sounds like a lot of fun. Like you get to meet all sorts of people and get to walk them into some of the best areas of their life. That's awesome.
Thank
Well,
you.
thanks for joining us.
Do you, in your profession, have you met people that have professional burnout? Have you heard about that?
Yes, yes, I have. I've seen that. And although we haven't done a specific seminar on that, that's a great topic. I'm gonna jot it down. But yes, we have come across that. And sometimes it's not that they are just burned out with their roles. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people love what they do, but they're burned out with their environment.
Mm,
And then there are some people that have the reverse. There are some people that are burned out in their roles. They may have gotten into something for the wrong reasons, for example, or they loved it for a little while, but then something else caught their eye. And so I actually kind of informally offline help people do those huge career leaps and kind of talk them through that academically, personally, professionally, and help them make that jump, because you can switch at any time in life and really begin to love what you do.
That's,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's funny because this week I was reading an article. It was about parental burnout, and
Mm.
they were sharing the fact they conducted a studies in Europe about parents that was going through parental burnout. But what was that's what it was interesting when you did your introduction, because they make the similitude, a parallel with professional, I don't know if the, yeah, professional burnouts.
yeah.
And what they let, just to for you guys to know what it is, it is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. I don't know if you guys understood.
Yeah, that sounds like parenting for real.
Yeah, yeah.
But burnout
Love
comes
that.
in different aspects in your life. So my name is Navmin, and I'm sure our time as a parent, I've been a parent for about 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
Not 3 years, but my daughter is about to be turned 4 in few weeks. Woo.
Mhm.
And I know, for when I read that, it caught my attention because when I read the symptom, I'm like, yeah, definitely that was a burnout. I was definitely mentally exhausted. And it's not that, but then I found out that it can be a really critical condition, and I'm grateful that it didn't go to that extent. Some people get medication and has to go to therapy, but I do understand as a parent now how you can get to that
100%.
point. And ladies, did it happen to you, or do you recognize yourself in my definition?
Well, so I I feel like I'm still in the honeymoon phase because my son is just barely
Uh,
one.
Oh,
I'm gonna toss the baton over to Marilyn and tell
Yeah. So parenthood, what a topic.
Mm-hmm.
What a topic. So definitely, I feel like there is a lot of internal stress. That means that with the newness of being a parent, of being in charge of a new life and
Mm.
everything, and it's also as we are making the parallel with the professional setting, there is also this outside, all those eyes on you and all these opinions and all these different different ways of raising a child, and that plus the stress of being a parent can be a lot. And let's not talk about the sleep deprivation. Like, I love my sleep, and I'm telling you that was a huge sacrifice for me.
Yeah.
Having children was a huge sacrifice on my sleep. Sometimes, and it's funny because before we started this conversation, I told you last night I did not sleep well. And it's not even connected to the fact that they woke up in the middle of the night, but it's just like sometimes you think you already have so much, as women, we already have so much on our plates. And then you have children, and it's something that is constantly in your mind. And whenever something happened, a little something happened, you constantly think about it. And I can understand how this can cause a burnout. So yes,
Funny
that's
because
my
when you were
take on
talking about that, about the fact that you didn't sleep until 5 o'clock, I remember that for me, sometimes the best time for me to finally have time for me to think about everything that I need to think about is when everybody was asleep.
Absolutely.
So sometimes it's just you trying to gain back, reclaim your time, and just finally have the peace to think about it, and just. But unfortunately, it's up to 5 a.m. and it's about to wake up.
Oh, no.
You cannot do that too many times.
Right, right.
What about you, Kasha?
Well, yeah, I'd love to add on to that. So, kind of going back and making that parallel, like you said, professionally. Like I said before, sometimes we love what we do, right? Like we love our children, we love our families, we love being a parent. But there are environmental factors that just make it a little bit more challenging to thrive, maybe by at least our own standards, right? So we love our children, but especially during quarantine, you're cooped up in a space, or we love our children, but sometimes they're not listening, and so we're having to think, okay, how can I best respond in a patient way if they don't listen? Okay, I love my children, I love my family, but how can I be the best for them? To Marilyn's point, when I'm tired, I'm running on fumes. How can I be the best for them if I am trying to get up at 4 or 5 a.m. to beat them, and they still wake up anyways? And so all of
Yes.
Talk about it. Yes.
which is my but and so we sometimes it's not the parenting itself, so it's not just parent burning out with being a parent, but burning out with how we're parenting, or sometimes just the cards that we are dealt in that moment, until we get a good rhythm for managing that stage.
That's interesting. Your point is very interesting because for me, some people I heard they struggle, they want to be the perfect parents. And for me, I learned a long time ago, I'm not here to meet people's expectation, but I love structure. And because I guess growing up, my parents, even if they from the Caribbean, they really let us sleep at whatever time. They're like, yeah, you're gonna fall asleep when you fall asleep. It doesn't matter if I have to wake up early. They told us that's on you. You don't want to sleep every night, and that's on you. So I'm saying that because when I realized like my daughter, like I like her when she sleep at 7:30 like that, I have my time. But as she grew up, she stopped doing that. And there was a level of frustration because I'm like I don't have time for me, like you because you're sleeping so late night now. I have to fall asleep, and then we have to go back to our routine, and I feel like I don't have time for myself.
Yeah.
And that's when I read this article. I was like, okay, that's that, like you say, it's the parenting. Like I feel like, yeah, for that I was probably burned out. I need to I need time for myself. It's just crucial, and so that was my.
You know what, though? I feel like this is the perfect segue, because what Loveman is saying, I feel like resonates with so many of us women. And it is, how do we find the balance between a growing family? And we want to set the tone by letting you know we're going to be using the term family a lot, but it's not just the nuclear of parents and children. If you are in a committed relationship with or without children, we are talking about you too, because we believe that once you come into relationship with any with your partner, that's also a change to what your normal was. And so you too might find yourself in a situation where you're trying to balance this new normal. So we want to have a conversation that can help give tips to see if that's even possible. So I guess that's my first question, ladies. Do you think it's necessary to safeguard your me time, while maintaining a healthy family life? Is that something that we can even do? And I'll
Kasha.
tell you why I asked that. So I'm a self-professed commitment phobe. I can do anything once there's no expectation. But the moment you start putting an expectation on it, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'll still go through with it, but it's not as organic as if you had just allowed it to happen. And so for me, I remember when we were pregnant, breaking down, like real tears, crying one day. And I want to be very transparent. And understand that my journey does not need to be your journey. And what I fear doesn't mean that if that's your reality, then there's something wrong with it. I'm just speaking about what it felt like for me. So I grew up in the Caribbean, and I was used to seeing moms have lives. Like, they were professionals, they were stay at home, they did whatever they wanted to do, but they were still intrinsically, like, they still had a sense of self. They had their girlfriends, and they and their girlfriends did things that they loved to do that didn't necessarily revolve around their children. They were the best moms, loved their children, but their life was not just about their children. So now I migrate and I live in a different culture where there's like a mom club where all the mom clubs do is talk about their children. And I didn't want that. And so I literally bawled at wondering, in order to be part of this club, am I going to have to die and just be all about this baby so that I can fit in? And I literally bawled because of what that felt like to me. So now I kind of go way deep in my mind, y'all. So you have to excuse me.
No. I bought too. Even after the baby, but I had that same reflection. So no.
So, like, is it necessary? Tell me, is it necessary to safeguard me time? Do you think it is or no?
I think it absolutely is. I think that it's important to have moments where you can reflect so that you can come back and do it all again the next day, right? So everyone, and it's not just a woman thing. I think as we find our own me time, we have to look at, for instance, if we're in a relationship, if we're married, for example, look at our husband and say, does he need me time? And that may give you some me time as well. Or look at your children and say, do they need some time without me giving instructions, telling them, okay, this, because I'm like, love me and I like the structure, but giving them time to think and just enjoy some free time, creative time, play time. I think it's inextricably linked to who we are as people. We all need it. But for me, that me time gives me a moment to reflect. What have I done well? What do I need to improve on? What do I need to do differently? What do I need to start, stop, continue? Am I my best for my family right now? And if I'm not, what can I do differently? And not that every single moment is kind of that structured thought. Sometimes it's like, let me just decompress and not think about today because today was a whirlwind. But definitely let me just take a moment to myself so I could come back and do it all again the next day. Sometimes I just need quiet moments. Now, I will say, and then I'll turn it over to someone else, me time could look very different. Sometimes it may look like, a glorious spa day, not in COVID, but maybe previously, or sometimes it may look like a day trip away or a day out with your friends. But sometimes me time is hiding out in your closet, eating whatever the other 3 men in your house have not eaten. I'm a boy mom. I have 2 boys and a husband that I adore, all of them. They will eat your food. And so sometimes me time is like, let me hide and eat this chocolate before someone else gets it, or the last piece of cake, and just, think about something else I want to do. So me time, you've got to give yourself room to not think of me time as maybe you've always thought about it, but let it be creative or nothing at all.
One of our viewers actually posted that for them, me time was just taking a bath.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Right, right. I do remember this
Or
comment.
be in the shower and nobody's disturbing you.
Yeah,
No mommy, mommy, mom.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
It's important. I would say it's definitely important for everyone, but especially, with if you are a person that primarily has a lot of responsibility in your home.
Mhm.
Right, definitely. And to me, I don't know if you feel that way, ladies, but I love that me time, but I also feel extremely, extremely guilty whenever I take the time to just be by myself. Like sometimes I'll tell my husband, "Hey, I'm going to the store," and then after an hour, I'm like, "I can't do this." I'm like, and then I'll come back home, and then my husband will be like, "I get this. Why did you come back? You could have." I said, I'm like, I wanted to go this and then, but I didn't want to leave it all to you and stuff. And you'll be like, "I'm fine. Why are you worried about something?" So yes. So once again, for me, it is extremely difficult to enjoy my me time. I need it. I want it. But when it comes to really spending time by myself and feeling guilt free, it is hard. I don't know. How do you ladies feel about this one?
I'll go first so Love Me can save the day. I have no guilt about it. I enjoy it so much. Like I ride off into the west like a cowboy and I don't look back. I mean, but that's my answer and that's honest. So, but again, perspective. I'm new to the game. He's just one. So there's not a whole lot of I just enjoy it. I guess because so perspective, I gave birth in December and then the country went on total shutdown in about March. I've been with him all the time
Right.
and I now work from home. So when I get to go to the store, of course, I always want them to come. So I get that piece of always wanting to be together. But when I go out by myself, I'm like brand new. Like, who is this? Like there's nobody behind me going, "Da, da, 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 da," pulling on me. I mean, I can walk around, I can pretend I'm someone else. So for me, I enjoy it. But just because, okay. So I'm gonna let Love Me answer that. Maybe she has a different answer.
Me, I was feeling like Marilyn when until my daughter turned 1.
Mm.
When she turned 1, I was like, all right, bye. And as she's getting older, I'm like, okay, like it's getting in relating to the all parents burnout. Like I understand the necessity of us having like enjoying this time. And but I used to be like you, Marilyn, but I feel like as she's getting older, and because she's so attached to me, like she sleep in my bed, like, we are all together all the time.
Always.
So it's necessary for us to have a little time apart in order to enjoy one another. And I'm teaching her that too. Like, it's okay. You can have fun without mommy. It's okay. So we are in this process as she's turning 4, but nah, no more guilt for me.
And
And
I feel like Marilyn has two.
yeah,
So
that's what I'm like. Yeah.
difference. We only have
So
one.
I have to admit that it's getting a little easier with the second one. I do have to admit. I do have to admit that. But I still feel like when I go out, I'm like I put myself like a what? How can I say that?
Timer?
Like on a timer. Exactly. I put myself on a timer sometimes unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. That's the thing.
What
Girl,
about you,
the
Kasha?
sun sets on me, and Karen is like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's wrong? You've been gone for 2 hours." Oh, really?
No judgment.
Forgot.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this actually. So the first thing is I've asked myself, why does that guilt come? Is it just because of pressure that I'm putting on myself? Is it pressure from my family, from my children, from my husband? Where does that pressure really come from? And if it's self-imposed, why did I put it there? That's the first thing. The second thing is, and going back to Love Means' point about structure, because I try to be a structured person. Now, I'll tell you this, sidebar people, you could try to have all the structure in the world and then you have 2 toddlers. Some days things will go out the window and you have to be okay with that. Your little schedule will go clean out the window. But I try to be generally structured with room for flexibility. And I try to structure the day so that when I have quote unquote me time, it's after everybody is taken care of. And that took a lot of guilt off of me. Now, I will say I have to be awake long enough to appreciate the me time because it's usually very late at night or very early in the morning. But by then I know my husband's taken care of, the kids are taken care of. So if I'm just enjoying a quiet moment, whether it's sipping tea, reading a book, then I'm not worried. Okay, someone's going to come around the corner and need me. Right? Because everybody's asleep. The other thing is when I am with them, my husband, my children, I really try to just make sure that I'm present. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means, but just like, you know, we're playing, we're tussling, we're involved in an activity, you know, with the kids and running around with them and really engaging the kids so that when we spend time, either it's he and I or alone, that I'm not like, man, I really, you know, I'm enjoying this so much, but I really need to be spending more time with them. I can make a clean cut now that the kids are a little bigger and walk away and say, we've, you know, enjoyed enough time together. I'll see you all in a few. I'll see you in a couple hours. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you. So I'm trying to put boundaries in place. That's the other thing. And then we talk about boundaries with the kids. Like I will tell the kids, hey, when mommy is working, it's work time. When it's snuggle time, I'm not going to be working. But when it's work time, I can't always snuggle. Sometimes I can sneak a hug in between meetings because now working from home. But sometimes I can't. And I want you to be okay with that because I'm working with you in mind. It was important for me that they knew why I'm even working. It's not just because I'm out there, just trying to make money, but it's for all of us. So, that boundary setting is helping me.
That definitely. And I think that those questions are so important because, as said previously, sometimes we put the pressure on ourselves, but the society also. And I don't know how you ladies feel about that, but our parents, they did so much. Our mothers, my goodness, they did so much. And sometimes you feel like you have to be as strong as they are. They don't talk about their mental breakdowns. For them, they're like, if I talked to my mom about a mental breakdown, I said, I didn't have time to have those mental breakdowns. I had to raise 3 children by myself, mostly the good work. And so I didn't have time to think about myself. It was all about you guys and all about those sacrifices that I have to make sure that my children are okay. So sometimes, and it's not only my mom, it's like a lot of women from that generation who did so much. And you feel that pressure sometimes of like, okay, even if I don't feel okay, I have to try to suppress all of this and just keep going for my family, because if my grandma, mama, everybody did it, I can do it. But I feel like it's hard to find a balance and a thin line between what's okay, I have to do it for my family, but at the same time, right now I need help. I need a break. I need time for myself. So I feel like society has a way to put that pressure on you. And I don't want to call it mom shaming. There is also another side of it that is like completely mom shaming. But have you ladies ever experienced mom shaming, or like maybe mom pressure? I would say would be a better expression for it.
Oh, definitely, especially when I first that was my first child. So you have a unsolicited opinion
Advice.
about how you're supposed to take care of your child. And I have a baby face. I'm not saying that I'm old, but people, when they see me with my daughter, they usually think I'm a teen mom. And I let them be. So they feel the need to tell me how I'm supposed to do, or even sometimes when she has not tantrum. And I'm like, sometimes even me as a parent, I'm aware that I'm figuring it out, and I'm aware that I'm doing something different that my parents did. And I'm aware that I'm my own journey, and I'm not trying to meet no one expectation. That's how I try to not keep myself bounded by people's opinion.
Yeah.
And that's in my spiritual journey, in my motherhood. Like, that's really something that I've been trying. But in my motherhood, like, I have to set boundary with people. Sometimes let them know that, all right, thank you. But by thank you mean that I didn't ask you for anything, because I welcome, of course, advice, I'm not close to that. But at the same time, like, let me figure it out where you had to figure it out. And I'm aware that we have more resource, because we talk about our parents a lot, how they did such a good job. And yes, they did. But I'm going to talk about my personal experience. They were going all the time, but I can't say that to you guys, because I tell that to my mom. Emotional intelligence, I'm sorry, zero. So what I'm saying is that sometimes they were going, but maybe they didn't have the awareness that maybe they were breaking inside, like something was breaking up inside of them. And because they just felt the need to keep going. And I feel like our generation, at least we have this awareness that, you know what, sometimes we don't have a good day, sometimes we're not perfect, and it's fine. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I feel like especially for me, we took a long time before we had our first baby. And so there's the excitement, and that's something that I've had to try to balance mentally. The excitement of this being your baby, but like the community's baby. Everybody wants to love on them. Everybody has an opinion. And I remember when he was little, socks were a huge thing. Like, whenever anyone would come around, oh, you should put him in socks. Marky, he was like, he got hot real easily. And so we found that he was less fussy and he slept better just when he was in like airy clothing and allowed to breathe. But so, like, simple stuff like that. And I remember it used to bother me, because one of the things, luckily for me, almost everyone had gone ahead of me and had their babies. And so I was always able to hear stories and kind of see the impact that it has on moms when you walk up with your well-intentioned suggestion, but she's already wondering if she's good enough, if she's doing it right, if she knows enough. And then you coming to give her suggestion or advice is sometimes received as her, yeah, I'm not doing it well enough, because see, here comes Kasha telling me that I need to do this instead. She can see that I don't know what I'm doing. So luckily, again, for me, I had a COVID baby, so I was always locked up in my house. So I didn't get a whole lot of that. But there were moments when I would go out, or when people would come in and they'd say, no, don't do this and do that, and make sure that when this happens, you do this and da da da. But I just kind of filtered it through the strainer of what I had heard previously, and just took it with a grain of salt. Or in some cases, I just, told people, thank you, that's not the direction I'm choosing to go in, but I appreciate your feedback, and just kind of leaving it alone. But that was mine, because I didn't have to go out a whole lot, so it wasn't too heavy.
I sometimes don't appreciate the feedback. I can't even put the last part on there sometimes, but many times I did. And you know what, to your point, I learned to filter it too, because especially with my first son, there was a lot of unsolicited feedback. I mean, to the point of frustration. And then one day I said, why is this frustrating me? I don't have to let it frustrate me. I just don't have to listen. And not that I didn't listen to any of it, but to Renee's point, I learned to put it through a filter. For example, there was one church auntie who I love and adore, who was so tough on me. I felt like when I had my first son, she was saying this and that. Gosh, I know you didn't so and so. It always started with, I can't believe you're gonna so and so. You're not gonna so and so. But this person, you have to know people's heart also, and so it's more difficult when you don't know people as well. But I knew she loved me. I knew she loved the baby, and whatever she said was always followed up by a helpful solution. Like, Kasha, that baby's bottle is not warm enough. Give it to me. I'll go warm it up. She always did whatever the thing was, for example, but in a helpful way, not in an unhelpful way. Like, you know what? I got you kind of thing. It wasn't just advice and then not doing anything about it. I could tell her heart because she was giving this advice. And even though it was, and I learned to laugh it off. And from that day to this, we're still very close. And so I absolutely just learned to filter it and love it and appreciate it. But in my first moments in motherhood, it was very challenging until I just had to reframe my own thinking. Like, I don't have to take all this, but I am going to take the good parts and just, kind of push aside the other parts.
And you know what? I think that knowing a person's heart, I feel like also makes a huge difference.
Oh, definitely.
So I try not to be an advice giver anyway.
Yes. I ask people, can I give you some, can I respond to this or help with this? Can I offer an idea on this? And if they say, well, I'm good, you can kind of tell when people, and I'll say, okay, yeah. But some people are like, oh, thank you. Please tell me, what do you do if your baby is coughing? So you just gotta, give people the space to say yes or no that they want your advice too.
Exactly. But I feel like we jump. Sorry, go ahead, Marilyn.
No. And I was about to say, and what about, have you ladies ever have to deal with dirty looks? Like, what about there? Because there are some people who have like those unsolicited advice and they have a nice one, but sometimes you have to experience like the hardcore. Like some people give you like literally dirty looks or like, oh my goodness, I'll take my kid. I can't believe your son still has a pacifier and stuff like this. And then, and how do you deal with like those like really like more aggressive attacks on your motherhood?
I think sometimes it depends when it happens. If it happened at a time where you're really vulnerable, like you were already thinking about that, and then here comes this person and say,
yes, definitely.
Or your children is he's having a tantrum, and you're already like, you're trying to keep them to sit down and be still, and here like, ooh, at my time, if it was me, I would have done that. Like sometimes for me, I'm not gonna act like something. Like if it come at the wrong time, it can of course touch me a little bit, but I'm learning as I'm being more confident in my role as a mother, I feel like I'm able now to just who are you, like
I love it.
Because I remember one day I was taking the train with my daughter in Paris, and Giselle was very fussy. But then I have to remind myself, yeah, she woke up at 6. It's 6 p.m. She had a long day. You don't know that, so I don't.
They don't know this. They don't know the story. They'll never know the ins and outs. It's about your own peace of mind and your frame of thinking.
Yeah.
And people can look, but that's all they can do. Sometimes people will look and give them a and it solves it. But it's about your own frame of thinking. They have no idea like the rest of the narrative. But I will say being a parent has made me a more empathetic parent.
Yes.
We've all, I'm sure, experienced seeing a child with a tantrum in the store, even if it's over something that we deem silly, like, they want a toy and they are giving their parents grief. And, growing up, I would be like, oh my word, we never. But now as a parent, I will look at children and say, don't you treat your mother like that. You behave, your mother is doing the best she can.
Right.
Sometimes you're like, I know now what's going on behind the scenes. She lost her keys. She spilled her coffee. She's running late. The child is falling. I know the narrative now in my mind. So I just try to make sure that I'm more empathetic than.
Right. Now you give them that Hunger Games sign, like to say, I know. I know, sister.
I'm not gonna win. You stay strong. Don't let them out of that shopping cart.
Right. I know, man. Yeah, I remember. Golly, guys, you're gonna have to deal with me. This is what your future looks like. People who have kids that don't know people because they don't go out the house. But I remember the 2 times I went to church before the COVID situation, and I remember he was like probably 3 months. And I
Mm.
remember he was waking up because he's not real fussy, but he was waking up, and so he was like crying like.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, oh God, I don't want him to.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
had to arrest my thoughts and go. And I remember saying it to a friend at the time, like, ooh, I'm realizing that every time he makes a sound or fusses, because he wasn't like bawling, like wailing, but I'm realizing that it's evoking something in me. So I literally had to step back and figure out what's going on and why, because he's doing what he's supposed to do as a baby, which is
To communicate.
make noise and communicate the best way he can. So what is this doing in me and why? And literally it had to go back to unlearning some of those judgmental thoughts that you had
Yes.
when you didn't understand, and
Mhm.
not wanting to be that parent with the loud baby that don't know how to act. The kid is 3 months. So, kind of, but you're right, Marilyn. I feel like sometimes, and Kasha said it too, we go out and we see parents and we see them with their children, we see them having meltdown, and until we get to that point we really don't know what it looks like. And the empathy then comes with, and mommy, you were right, my mom would always say, you wouldn't understand, and I'd be so offended. I'd be like, but I'm educated, like I have deductive reasoning, why wouldn't I be able to understand whatever it was she was talking about, right? But then there's something to be said about experiential type understanding, that's it trumps everything else. So now, like you said, I see a mom trying to load her car up with groceries and the baby. Like, if it wasn't too creepy and we weren't in a pandemic, I would literally go walk up and offer to help, because now I understand
Yeah.
from my own experiences what the backstory behind those situations is.
Mhm.
But I feel like we've kind of been talking about parent child. What about if your family looks like just a husband and a wife relationship? Um, is there such a thing as balancing those roles, the idea of self and then the idea of being someone's partner? How do you balance that? How did you ladies balance that when you just got married or anything like that?
I think it's a process. I wish when I got married that someone would have told me it's you will not figure it out. On like when you say yes, it didn't give me the instant
Overnight.
book that's in the notice. Okay, now I know how to do it, and now I'm
Uh,
like I remember, I think one day it was at church. I felt like I had that pressure. I was so not young, I was 26, but it kind of I felt young at that time.
mhm.
And I remember this man, I guess for me it was just God that sent it to me to share that on the during the sermon, and saying that, being a wife and learning to navigate all this world while not losing your identity is a journey, and it's not going to take 1 day 2 days. It's the journey through life, because even how you take in those roles, you're going to change. Like the person that you were at 26 is not the person that you're going to be, and is going to evolve. And I think I had to accept that reality. But it was a journey, because for me, I'm very not type A, but I like everything to be perfect, and I got it together. So I'm sure, no, of course I got this. And then when you realize, no, I don't. So it's just so that's why I think that it's a journey.
I'd like to add to that. I do think it's important to keep your sense of self identity while also really pouring all that you can into your marriage as well. And to Love Means Point, it's a journey, because right, you grow in stages, and so she said that who you are now is not who you're going to be. But the reason why the self identity part is important is because I think a lot of growth often starts with self-awareness, if not all growth. So we first have to be self-aware. We can't, it's very easy to be quote unquote aware of what the other person's doing, but we have to have some self-awareness, and we also have to think about who we are, how we want to grow, if we're growing, are we becoming better and better, by the standards that we've set for ourselves. And so that comes with some self-awareness and that self-identity, outside of even your spouse or your partner, so that you know how to be better for them.
Mhm.
So I think it is important to start with self. not in a selfish way, but in a reflective way, so that you're really able to monitor your growth and development and making sure that you are doing what you need to for your family.
Yes. And it's so easy to drown in all those roles, and wife, mother, even at work, employee, and as women, we are those selfless beings who
True.
always give, and it's so easy to get lost in those roles, and it's so important to, as you ladies said it, to take time for yourself, to also take care of your dreams. That's one thing that is one thing that I'm learning after almost 10 years of marriage. Like, I have to really take care of my dreams.
Yeah.
It's so important to nurture also who you are and who you want to be, and also to give yourself grace to go through that process of growing and learning who you are, and to be aware of what you want, who you are, what you want to be, and to take care of that as well, that vision that you have. It's so important, and it's something that we never stop learning and realizing through the years.
I remember one thing Karen said to me that was so encouraging, and I think it helped me to not have any conscious, because sometimes we have things going on that we're not conscious of, right? Not have any conscious guilt about maintaining a sense of who I am. I remember one day he told me, Renee, these are the things that I saw in you that drew me to you. I love your just, listing all those things out. And I think in that moment when he said that, it was early on in our marriage where I was trying to find my way as like the great wife, because everything. Love me, you said it, we want it a certain way, and or ideas of perfection, and even trying to be submissive because we're all Christians, and what that looks like, because I'm a strong-willed person, if you know me. So trying to find that balance, and trying to mold myself into what I thought it should look like. And he was like, babe, no. So these were the things I saw and liked. And so that was him kind of affirming who I was. And by no means are we saying that we want you to be selfish and self-centered and I'm gonna do me kind of a thing. But just healthy ways that you can enjoy yourself. Yeah, just enjoy yourself. I remember also, I've said it so many times, some of my best friends were either 70, 91, or in their 50s. And they would always sit with me and talk to me, and Karen too, but they would tell me about their journey and some things they wish someone had told them, and how important it was to know who you are and to have a vision and a purpose and a passion, and how there is some kind of like it's gonna change. Maybe your priority in this season is this, and in the next season it's something else, but embracing all your different roles, I like to call them hats, so that if one thing is taken away, you are not empty.
Mm,
So
that
that
is
was something that I always try to remember. I'm always going to strive to be the best wife I can be. I'm always going to strive to be the absolute best mom I can be. But before I can be any of those things, Renee has to be right. And so finding things that can help me be right. So I guess now I want to kind of pitch this over to Kasha, if you don't mind. Can you tell us like some fun, practical things that we can do as women to take care of ourselves?
Yes, hide in the closet and eat your chocolate before anybody else eats it. Eat your cake. I'm just kidding. Oh,
No,
kidding,
that's
not kidding. That's part of the strategy. But so some fun things that you can do to maintain your sense of self is the question. Yeah, I think definitely there's a concept from Maslow's hierarchy of needs that talks about the needs in a particular order. So reviewing that and first understanding what someone pitched to me recently as your quality world. What do I need to be whole, right? To achieve these level of needs. So reviewing that first of all, and just kind of getting a baseline for who am I? What do I need? What are my expectations? What are my expectations of my family, myself? What makes me feel whole? What makes me feel at peace? What brings me joy? And then try to weave those things into your everyday life. Now, some of us may have huge expectations, quote unquote, according to other people, but some things may be simple. I would encourage you to find at least some simple ones that, is a quick fix that brings you joy, that brings you a smile, that brings you peace, that brings you sunshine on a and just weave them into every day for those moments where you're not able to take a vacation during COVID, or you're not able to have a full-fledged shopping spree or a getaway. What just makes you happy and smile? What thoughts can you introduce? What activities can you introduce into your structure without making you more stressed? These should be things that bring you less stress. But those kind of principles have been very helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome.
And it could be, some days it really is just cake. I love cake. I love sparkling cider, like Martinelli's sparkling blush.
Yep.
So good. And sometimes it really is just making myself, mentally feel like I'm on vacation by hiding out and just eating cake by myself, or, just watching an old school show, like, from back in the day, or old school music, which I love. Just something that's little, that doesn't cost anything, that at a moment's notice could really be used to just, kind of make things a little more lighthearted, and also just not taking yourself so seriously, and eliminating things from your life that don't really matter. So right, we all have this conscious, sometimes subconscious list of things that, man, this is like a 10 on my list of things that matter. But when you really think about it, it doesn't. So there was a great movie, if I could give you an example, called Mother's Day Out. Check it out if you have a chance. Mother's Day Out. And in this, the mom was hiding in the closet having a meltdown. And the kids had drawn on the wall, not to give the whole movie away, but they drew on the wall. And the mom was kind of stressed about this and many other things. But by the end of the movie, instead of painting over the wall, she took a picture frame and knocked the back out and framed the art on the wall. So it was like framed wall art. And I thought, that's such a great idea, because I'm a type A personality, and I was cringing the whole time. And I tried that in my own life, and it worked. I thought, this is so cool. I was gonna paint it, and I thought, I'm just gonna frame this. So little things like that, like, does X, Y, and Z, getting paint on this really matter if I can wash it out? Does, missing this part of the schedule really matter if we can make it up tomorrow? Like, take things off your mental stress list that you've put there that don't have to be there.
Thank you so much for all this advice. It was priceless. I'm taking it all in as
I'm learning as I go, but this has helped me. Quarantine will make you think about some things. You got to have a strategy, or you just got to have a strategy. Let me not even just be strategic, be prayerful, and make your to-do list and your undo list, I like to call it. Okay, what do I need to get done? And what do I need to take off my to-do list? For everything I add on one side, I take something off, so that it's not constantly growing. Because sometimes even those little things that are unspoken will make you feel stressed and you don't know why. Like looking at a long to-do list. But I realized, okay, for everything I put on, I'm going to take something off. And those things for a type A personality are like saving grace. It's just your connection with God and family and community.
So we talked about our relationship with ourselves, like how to position ourselves within our family, and also towards our children. But when we think about our spouse, so often this is to me, this is a controversial question for me. So I always hear, you have to be a wife first, then a mother. And to me, it is extremely hard, believe it or not. Some people, like, for them, I know I was a wife first, and they even say you can have more children with your wife if something happened, but you can, like. And to me, it's just, when I hear those statements, I cringe, because to me, I feel so, not that I don't love of course I love my husband and I love my children, but it's so like my children depend on me.
Yeah.
So for me to detach myself from them and to prioritize sometimes my relationship with my husband, it is extremely hard. So
that's a good one.
Is it realistic? Is it like, am I the only one who wants to tell the truth and other women are just in denial? Or is it, what is it? Is it something wrong with me? Is it?
No, you gotta tell the truth. That's real, and a lot of people have that question and have experienced that. So I'm glad you're asking and talking about that.
Mhm.
So I will say to the first part of your question, do you have to be a wife and then a mother? I would say if you're in a married relationship, then yes, you do. Now, I am not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that every day looks like you tried to prioritize that first, but that concept is necessary. And I'll tell you one thing, children, as they see you prioritizing your marriage first and then them as children, will start to understand that and respect it and kind of align themselves accordingly. But that initial process of getting to that point is tough. I have two toddlers. I'm a toddler boy mom. So they want to be around mom a lot and they want all of your attention. So what does that look like?
Hmm.
We have tried to find little ways and we talk about it offline and then we try to show them. So one thing I'll do is like if I'm coming into a room and they're all three gonna run and greet me, I call my big baby and then my little two babies, I'll first say, let me hug my husband first. He gets the first hug. And
Ah,
then I get to hug you all. Daddy gets the first hug. Daddy gets the first kiss, and then I'll kiss my other two favorite guys.
Oh, I
And
like that.
just little
wow.
things
Yeah, I
like
like
that. And so now, where as before they would run up and they literally would try to pull us apart. This is
it.
true story. They'll now kind of stand there and wait a little bit, like, okay, get your hug in so we can get our hugs, that kind of thing. But at first it's hard. At first they'll cry, they'll fuss, they'll, literally try to wedge themselves in between, but just things like that. So it's hard, but we keep reminding ourselves that one day when they grow up and go to college, it's only going to be us. And I don't want to be looking at a stranger. My husband doesn't want to be looking at a stranger. So we have to nurture that, but it's not always easy.
Mm.
But we'll say things like that, like, now our oldest, who is about to be 4 in a couple of weeks, will say, Mom, can I so and so? Okay, well, what did your father say? Or sometimes I'll say, what did my husband say? Because I know that you already asked him first. You'll ask daddy first. So just reminding him with things like, my husband, well, my husband told you to do this, then da 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 da. Like just putting in their mind sometimes. And we don't talk like that, every single day, every conversation, but sometimes in a moment where there's little points of discipline necessary, just to put it in their mind. Oh, that's mom's husband. That's mom's husband, not just my dad or my mom, because kids
That's a,
think that everything is theirs.
that is so wow.
That was
That's so
practical.
enlightening. So
We just
enlightening.
got to use intentional language and like, hey, mommy and daddy gonna watch TV and just hang out. Well, we want to come watch TV. No, I'm gonna give you an activity. We're gonna sit right here, even if we're all in the same room, just to show them that there has to be some kind of boundary. Like,
I
because
like that.
they climb on you and love all you all day, so they know that they have whatever percentage of time, but then a certain percentage, whatever, even if it's small, some days is just set aside for not them, just for us. So it's hard, but it's
It is
very necessary.
definitely hard, and it brings us to that question, Renee. That
Yep. This one's my. I've
so
been
hard.
waiting
So
for this one. Yep.
Renee and I, we understand each other on this one. We are far from our families.
Yeah.
We do not have a babysitter.
Uh,
And on top of that, you add COVID. How do you find time? Like, how do you establish principles to keep you connected to your spouse when you have children that are always around you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, it's challenging because we for a long time were in the same situation. I mean, up until like right now. And so just really again those intentional moments. And a lot of times it took that extra level of like, really early morning talks and hangouts or really late at night once, the kids because if kids are awake, there's only ever a certain amount of
Yes.
connection you're ever going to have because you're literally running in different directions, especially if you have two or more, for example. And so just setting aside time or during their nap time, just, to talk, to look at each other and say, hey, you're still here. Oh, nice to meet you. You look familiar. Oh, you're let's just connect for 5 minutes, just look at each other. We don't have to say anything, but just taking quiet moments to enjoy each other. And then when possible, really traveling. Sometimes it took us traveling to someone you trust because we didn't just get, any babysitter or didn't leave our kids overnight with people, things like that. And so sometimes it took very planned, specific trips to go to family, either one, of our parents to travel to say, hey, we need a weekend, we need a day. So it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It's sometimes a financial commitment, a time commitment, but just making sure that those things are in place for us, we would have to travel and say, hey, we're coming to visit y'all. We need y'all to take the kids. This is not a general, you have to set the precedent. This is not a general family vacation. We're not all hanging out. We're going to drop our children at the door. We're just going to slow down and just kind of, and we're going to do a stop and roll, and we will see you all in 3 days kind of trips. Like, let the family know, like, it's not a general family reunion. We're coming to drop the kids off. Can we have some time? But it has to be with people you trust. And I emphasize that again, because and for some people, that's not their family. I'll just say that. So I'm not saying, but whoever you trust, because you have to be able to mentally disconnect during that time when you're away. You can't be thinking about your kids every moment. And I say that as a dedicated mother who loves my children. I love my husband first. And so being able to enjoy that time, and only you can do it if I know I'm type A. So when my house is clean, my children are taken care of, when I know they're fed and loved, and I'm not worrying, are they okay? Are they going to be crying? So find someone you trust and schedule it like months in advance in case you need to travel. So
being intentional.
So, Miss Kasha, I want to put you on the spot here because rumor has it you wrote a book.
Yeah. I did.
Tell us a little bit about what your book is, where we can find it.
Thank you so much. So the book is entitled Employeepreneur. And the title of the book came because, so as Renee, you said earlier, I lead a boutique consulting firm, Frontrunner Leadership Consulting, but I also have another role. I consult with another company full-time as well. And so having one foot in both worlds for many years, conventional employment, but also running my own company, also being a full-time wife, a full-time mom, there were a lot of, as you said, a lot of hats. And so a lot of people think, is it possible? Can you do both? And so I wrote a book to show, how do I know when to go? If entrepreneurship is what I want to do, how do I know when to make that transition? Or if I want to stay, how do I, stay as a stellar employee? Or if I want to go or be both, how do I do that? And so it's a resource guide based on some things that I've learned in my own journey in being an employeepreneur. And I will say this, just on the mom side, even writing the book, I was writing at 2, 3, 4 in the morning while nursing a newborn on my lap, typing with one hand. That is the reality, just to give you all a picture. It's not, it's wow, it's such an adventure, but very worth it. I wanted to give people these resources, and I wanted to be able to tell my children, like, hey, you were not a barrier to my success. Having a child or having 2 children now didn't stop me from writing a book. I wrote it for you so that you know your options. I wrote it with you, literally on my lap, climbing on my back, on my head, typing with my hand. But yeah, that's what the book is about. And I'm hoping it will help a lot of people just understand how to navigate their current work environments or transition to becoming an entrepreneur or a mompreneur, if that is your goal. And so it's on my website, which is frontrunnerleadership.com. And you'll see books and resources as one of the tabs. And there's an ebook available through Amazon, Kindle, or there are also hard copies available. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was such a good conversation. Your presence, it was just a blessing to have you with us today.
Thank you all so much. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you all for this time to just talk and just be.
Right. This was our me time, ladies.
Today, this is what my me time looks like. Because as soon as I open this door, a flood of people are gonna come in.
Exactly.
I'm already hearing the floodgates open upstairs.
Yeah, I'm hearing them.
So thank you so much again, Kasha. You're such an inspiration and a delight to know. We are so grateful that you took the time to just share with us from your heart practical ways that all of us as women can find ways to make time for yourself. It doesn't have to be anything glamorous like we've shared. It can literally be a bath, like one of our commenters said. It can literally be chocolate cake in your closet, like Kasha said. whatever works for you.
Martinelli.
Yeah, Martinelli.
There you
There's
go.
no wrong way. There's no right way. Just feed your soul. Whatever hat you find yourself wearing, wear it with class, but understand that it does not define you. It's a fraction of who you are. And at the end of the day, we're rooting for you. We're cheering for you to be the best version of you.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor, would you? Subscribe, like, comment, and share. And don't forget to look in our description box for ways that you can support Kasha in her new book, and visit her website. Maybe she's able to share with you some other fun tips that might not have necessarily been addressed in this episode. We invite you to come back next week when we share other questions and answers that might be important to you. We remind you that if you do have questions for us, feel free to send those by email to the She Who Speaks podcast at gmail.com, or just drop them in the comment section and we'll talk about it next time. Until then, see you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, ladies.